we have a video message from a master navigator who is very special and near and dear to the heart of the East-West Center and many people really to Hawaii. I'm talking about a man named Nainoa Thompson, and he is the CEO of the Polynesian Voyaging Society. If you don't know him, he's the first native Hawaiian in pretty much 600 years to practice the ancient Polynesian art of long distance, open ocean voyaging on what's known as a traditional double-hulled canoe, most famously the hokulea. So let's go ahead and roll that message. This is explorer, environmentalist, and educator Nainoa Thompson.
Aloha mai kako. Welcome to the second day of the East-West Center International Media Conference. And my name is Nainoa Thompson. I'm from the Hawaiian Islands. And I really so wish to be with you all in person. I understand the importance of these vital conversations need to take place with so many talented people in the room. And but we're in the last of our leadership and navigation training sail before the Hawaiian waters experiences too much hurricane risk. So I just couldn't be there. Apologize. But I do know that you have really world-class speakers, and from what I've read, but also I've had the privilege to have known one of them for decades now, and she's a vital teacher of mine, and she's a mentor of mine because of the way she conducts her life, dedicated to protection of all life on the island Earth, and from the voyaging perspective, she's a hero of ours. And so we had at once given her an award from the voyaging family about naming her on one of the world's greatest navigators. And so we follow her as much as we can go. And I do know that she is not going to want to hear this introduction, but this is how we feel about Dr. Sylvia Earle. And we'll follow her anywhere. And she's this great navigator that looks at really navigating the future of the only island we have. It's called Earth. And what she navigates is life. And the Earth is a miracle, infinite amounts of statements of miracles of how the system of life on Earth works. And she is the one that's been so vital to helping us understand that massive, infinite web of interrelationships of Earth's living system. And she'll probably tell you that we can't protect what we don't understand. So therefore, the vital integration of good science, good data that we can make decisions from, integrate that with the not just indigenous knowledge, but the practices and the views and the values of what indigenous people have learned over thousands of years of taking care of one's place. It's the definition of stewardship. And she will also probably tell you that we're in a dangerous time, that we're at crossroads of serious tipping points. We are at, a time when ecological decline is something that we have never seen before. But she will also probably tell you that we're in a great time because we are now knowing so much more about the systems of the Earth, and so therefore we know how to protect them. And she'll probably tell you that this is probably the greatest time for the greatest explorers in humanity to step up and start to not just find the place at top of a mountain or bottom of the sea, but find the solutions and crack the code to be able to heal the Earth. And she would also probably tell you that the best investment we have as humankind is to invest in young women and men of the next generation to solve the kinds of things that my generation could not. And so I just want to, again, apologize for not being there. I'm going to miss out, but I'm glad you all came together and to make a contribution to that pathway of healing. And I wish you all the best, and with deep gratitude and respect and aloha to the East-West Center for hosting but convening this extraordinary group of people that's going to help us find the way. Aloha pa'ole.
Thank you. Again, that was Nainoa Thompson. I also want to give special recognition to a VIP in the audience here. We have the Philippine Secretary of the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, the Honorable Maria Antonio Yulo Loizaga. If you could just please stand, and thank you very much for shepherding the country, especially the theme here of New Climate Perspectives with your leadership. Thank you so much for being here and for your time. With that, I also want to kick off our first session. And with that, I would like to invite our moderator, Tammy Tabe, as well as our panelists to join us as well. Come on up. And just a little bit of info about Tammy. She is the Oceania Research Fellow at the East-West Center here, and she has an expertise on climate migration and adaptation. And please come on up. And she's going to be leading us in a conversation with two others, very important people in the climate world, one with Mission Blue and one with Blue Prosperity Fiji. Come on up.
Mahalo nui Remy for the introduction. Aloha mai kako, maganda umaga, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Warm greetings to all of you on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I know that many of you have traveled from afar, and many of you who lived here in Manila have also made time to be here this morning. So on behalf of our president, Suzy Varislam, our board of governors, organizing team and partners, I want to say thank you for being here today to be part of East-West Center International Media Conference. I hope you all had a good night rest and adjusting to the weather, but also the time difference here in Manila. This morning, I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to moderate this morning's keynote panel, which will feature two of our esteemed speakers, or what I would like to call, if I may, champions, whose commitment to influence change and work have contributed tremendously to ocean and climate education and awareness. And they've inspired many youths and people across the Indo-Pacific region and the globe to do better in safeguarding our environment for us and for the future generations. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Sylvia Earle, a renowned Dr. Sylvia Earle is a renowned American oceanographer, a marine biologist, and a research scientist who loves and cares about the ocean, and has for many decades championed the need for action to safeguard it as our life support system. She has authored many books and publications to tell the story of the ocean, to educate and inspire readers to help protect the world's ocean and the ecosystem and life it contains. She is the founder of Mission Blue, an organization dedicated to protecting the ocean from threats of climate change, pollution, habitat destruction, invasive species, and also the dramatic decrease in ocean fish stocks. She is the president and chairman, not only of the Mission Blue, but of the Sylvia Earle Alliance, an ocean advocacy group that is committed to develop a global network of hope spots dedicated to protecting the biodiversity, particularly with accelerating threats of climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, Sylvia Earle.
What an honor it is for me to be here and to have that introduction by Nainoa. I hardly know what to say that can convey the magnitude of the significance of this moment in time. I come as a messenger. I have had the privilege of being able to spend more time than most inside the ocean, not just from the top down, but operating from within the ocean. We're talking about climate today. We're talking about the climate not of the moon or Mars or Jupiter, but of the living planet, Earth. Much of the discussion, much of what we know about climate has been based on information gathered by physical scientists, looking at the temperature, looking at the physical measurements that have really shaped today's climate and past. But until very recently, the idea that we have to consider blue carbon, the fact that this is a living planet, that it's life in the ocean, it's water and air together, that have shaped Earth into the habitable planet that we have generally taken for granted. I've been privileged from a young age to be around at a time when technology has made it possible to not just be at the surface, but to actually go beneath the surface, spending years submerged, if you will, one way or the other, being able to breathe air underwater. What a miracle that seemed to me to be when I first took the plunge years ago in the 1950s, and living underwater, getting to stay for days, weeks, day and night, mindful that those on the surface who study life have the ability to spend not just days and weeks, but years getting to know trees, getting to know birds, Jane Goodall, getting to know chimpanzees, one species very well, through years of study, and therefore transforming the way we think not just about chimpanzees, but about ourselves. But what about life in the ocean? How do we get there to spend time, meaningful periods of time? Again, lucky me, lucky us, we come along at a unique time in the history of our species when we are privileged to actually not just go high in the sky and look back at Earth from a view in space or in aircraft looking back on the land and sea, but actually to go deep. And working with engineers, I've had the privilege, again, of figuring it out. How do we package ourselves so that we can take ourselves safely into the depths of the sea? Our predecessors could not imagine the ability to get into a little bubble and go down and see what life is like from inside out, not just from the top down. Right now, early in the 21st century, the capacity to not just get in an aircraft and see what the world is like from above, but to be able to go below. And it's been my pleasure to take people who have magnified power and influence, who have responsibility for taking care of the ocean, into the ocean. Here, the Minister of the Environment for Ecuador, going to see the Galapagos Islands. He was a little apprehensive at first.
So great.
But he kind of got over that concern. And when he got to the bottom, beneath where sunlight shines, below the twilight zone, out of the depths came a messenger.
Can you do it with your head? Oh, he's right over your head. Oh my God. Oh my God. This just, it didn't happen right now. Unbelievable.
Oh, yes, it did. That Mola Mola had a word with the minister, and I think really changed his approach to the ocean from the inside out as well as the top down. So, why am I an optimist? Because of what we now know that nobody could know when I was a child. The knowledge that has been gathering through all of preceding history coming together with accelerated knowledge in my time, your time, and to be able to share the view, not just with learned scientists, but to take kids, to take teachers, to take anyone, everyone, to democratize access to the sea. That is happening on our watch. Yes, there are other means, using undersea robots, again, something that our predecessors could not do, but technology cuts both ways. And we're facing a time now when the technologies developed since the 1950s to find, capture, and mine the ocean of life, as well as minerals. Right now, we're facing some of the greatest decisions of our time, of our species, of all of history of life on Earth. Are we going to protect what remains of the natural fabric of life that keeps Earth habitable? Or are we going to sacrifice it with deep sea mining that is questionable in terms of, do we really need to do this for the future prosperity, or can we please think about the consequences to life in the sea of further destructive, consumptive activity in the last great wilderness, the high seas, the deep seas? This is our time, the best time, best chance we will ever have to safeguard Earth and to restore health, to look at what we did not know, could not know before about now, about how the cycles of life work. We're thinking of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, in terms that we could not think of before because we simply did not know what is now known. So we know now that most of the oxygen in the atmosphere has been generated by life in the sea. Those little green guys, some of them we've only recently discovered, like Prochlorococcus, that generates about 20% of the oxygen in the atmosphere. We didn't know of its existence until 1986. Those organisms that generate food, carbon, sugar, and oxygen in the atmosphere, driving the great ocean food webs, it starts with photosynthesis but goes through zooplankton. All these little creatures, the nurseries of the sea, the small, the medium, large sometimes creatures that live in the open ocean, forming a web of life that keeps us alive. It's the ocean. It's where 97% of Earth's water is. Of course that has a role as water shaping temperature, climate, but it's a living system. And to be in the midst of it, to watch the carbon cycle in action, to be there witnessing the birds from above, the sharks, the tunas, everybody's having a great time except the little fish. But to realize this is how it works. It works on the land similarly. Generally an eat and be eaten world, but humans have become the greatest predators on nature that there has ever been. What we're putting into the ocean, as well as what we're taking out of the ocean, is having a magnified impact on those cycles of life. Imagine if we did not know. That would be the biggest problem of all. Why I'm glad to be here with you, it's about conveying knowledge that did not and could not exist before. This is the greatest chance we will ever have to change the trajectory of planetary decline to recovery, respect for our fellow creatures, other societies, other nations, if you will, that happen to be in the ocean and on the land. I mean, we've come to understand the value of birds alive, of chimpanzees as fellow societies, whales as the biggest brains on the planet, smart enough not to destroy the world that they live in. But we came perilously close to eliminating whales because we thought of them as products, monetizing wildlife by the ton. But we have the capacity to change. There is within us compassion, empathy, understanding, respect, beyond just what whales and other creatures, whether it's a tree or a squid or a tuna, the value of life itself. We know how to consume nature. We've consumed about half of the magnitude of life on the land and in the sea, literally converted nature into, call it whatever you will, whatever it takes to make our civilization prosper. But we have the capacity to change, to look at squid as something other than products, krill in Antarctica as something more than something that can be converted to what we think of as greater use. This is our time to be able to explore and respect and understand that deep sea mining, we should put the pause button on that and understand that as never before, we have the opportunity to emerge from the 21st century into a time where we make peace with the planet. We are looking at the boundaries of security that are at risk because of what we consume of nature. We have a choice. Do we want to have the blue planet, or do we want the one that is a destination for some as an alternative to Earth? We are, as we look to a time when we could terraform Mars, we are Mars-forming Earth. Reasons for hope? Because of you. Because of those who have the capacity to convey why it matters to take care of the blue part of the planet that makes our existence possible. That was the Hokulea, those who are coming together across the Pacific to join with a renewed respect for their culture, but also understanding how we can really value the traditions while we understand that there are limits to what we can take out of the ocean and what we can put into the ocean. Just a few final images of what's at risk right here in the 7,600 and however many islands in the Philippines. This is the area of high diversity, among the highest in the world, land and sea, at risk because of actions that we take or that we can protect at this point in history. This is our time. And as we have pointed out, the future is really with the next generation. And the moment that we have to share the view, use technologies that didn't exist, to explore by coming together, this is reason for hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sylvia Earle, for just providing us the context to the ocean, as well as a holistic view of what's happening in the ocean through the embodied knowledge that you have gained from your research, as well as spending so much time championing a lot of the action plans to safeguard our ocean. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. So we've gone from science and research and going to pivot a little bit towards Indigenous community and community efforts. I'd like to introduce Dr. Joeli Veitayaki, a Fijian professor and indigenous leader who is championing community-based initiatives of the Lomaningau Network in Fiji. This network has coordinated the partnerships between development partners and 16 villages on Ngau Island on the sustainable use and management of the environment resources. He is now the Blue Prosperity Fiji Strategic Advisor, a partnership led by the government of Fiji and the Waite Institute of the US to support the implementation of the Fiji National Ocean Policy's 3 priority areas on marine spatial planning, blue economy, and sustainable fisheries. He's led many ocean institutes and forums and has also authored many publications on ocean management and sustainability, as well as traditional and community-based marine resource management. He also authored a book on fisheries development in Fiji, The Quest for Sustainability. His work, teaching, and mentorship has inspired many Pacific Island youths, people, and communities to care for the environment. And just like Dr. Sylvia Earle has inspired Nainoa, he has also inspired me. I was one of his former students, and I'm so grateful to be here moderating this panel that hosts boat champions that have affected most of the world in terms of their work. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Dr. Joeli Veitayaki.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm deeply honored to be with you all, and I'm thankful to the East-West Center for bringing us all together. And I'd like to recognize and acknowledge the presence of my heroes in the room, the journalists, who, like us educators, I think have a much broader, much bigger stage to influence and bring about positive change to the world that we live in. I'm grateful for the presentation earlier because it has covered all that we need to know about the ocean. So I'm now going to try and address the issue of us, humans. I'm going to do that by sharing some insights into the Pacific that I represent. Our ancestors had built cities like Nanmadol in Ponape and Lelu in Kosrae in Micronesia to illustrate power, technology, and organization. They also built artificial islands in the Morovo and Lau lagoons in the Solomon Islands to save themselves from mosquitoes and their enemies. They designed and built sophisticated voyaging canoes to ensure they were mobile across the ocean, accessing resources from their relatives and trading partners far away across the sea. They were fearless and innovative fishers who used kites, noose, and even cold fish, including sharks and turtles. They could navigate and trade with their partners far away within the country and beyond. They had shell money and valuables that were traded according to established protocols and social cultural arrangements. In Hawaii, they built fish ponds that still exist today to ensure consistent supply of fish. Like our ancestors, we in the Pacific are now focusing on ensuring that our people are prepared for climate change and other related challenges that threaten us. We're using a combination of indigenous and traditional knowledge and science-based methods to adapt to the existential threat that is affecting all aspects of our lives. So as Dr. Tammy mentioned earlier, I am currently engaged as one of the local staff members for this partnership, Blue Prosperity Fiji, that is hosted by led by the Fiji government, but is a partnership with the Waite Institute, a non-profit organization in the United States that supports initiatives to ensure a healthy ocean that sustains the livelihood and aspirations of current and future generations. The Waite Institute is helping countries like Fiji and others in the Pacific, including the Federated States of Micronesia, Tonga, Samoa, Vanuatu, with the commitments to provide grants to help in the attainment of the commitments that the countries have undertaken at the international level. At the signing of the agreement with Fiji, Mr. Ted Waite, the founder and chairman of the Waite Institute, asserted that only Fijians know best how to manage Fiji's ocean, and that he was just honored and humbled to provide the technical assistance to make the vision for a resilient ocean in Fiji a reality. The work that has been done so far included the conclusion of the largest marine assessment undertaken in Fiji over the last 100 years, and we are currently doing the data analysis in the hope of then providing the information to allow us to use marine spatial planning to offer to the decision makers options that are most likely to be the best. Also part of the information and data gathering is the Ocean Use Survey, which basically relates to gathering information from communities to ensure that they are well aware of the state of their marine environment and of what they need to do. So basically that is the work of the Blue Prosperity Fiji to try and support Fiji's attainment of its goal in those three areas of having marine spatial planning to support good decision making, a healthy environment and a productive one to provide for a blue economy for the country, and of course the sustainability of the island's fisheries resources. I would like to finish off with my own commitment, my own activity. Over the last 33 years as a staff member at the University of the South Pacific, my research was mostly on how do I get local communities to act on these challenges that are discussed at all levels, from the UN right down to the government. And I took it as my responsibility to engage with my people on the island in a project that basically focuses on the articulation of sustainability, sustainable development, if you want the term. Basically, a lot of our people live in environments like this, but are also witnessing the challenges that we need to all pay attention to and try and address, and that is climate change. That has exacerbated the impacts of other activities that are going on as a result of human activities. So Ngau is no different. That is where I'm from, and I take it on as my responsibility and contribution to them to try and educate them of the future that is coming, the threats that are beginning to be experienced, and to find solutions. And because we are here with a journalist, I don't want to be accused of just talking and I'm trying to show you some of the results of what I've done over the last 3 decades of working at the University of the South Pacific. The project is called Lomani Ngau. The word Lomani means to care for or to treasure. I believe it's the responsibility of everyone to care for and to treasure the place that they live in. This is where I've retired to live in a 45-hectare lease with native forest and degraded land, and that's where I want to make the changes that I think needs to happen, not only in my community that I'm showing you, but also the world over. So people, once they are convinced, can easily get to be agents of change within their own community. So here are evidences of what we have done over the decades, rebuilding beaches, reclaiming beaches because of replanting of mangroves. That's a transformation of that particular village. That was the case before. Today, that it's what it is, and that's the result of the mobilization of communities. Owners of that beach built that stone structure just to make sure, or they imitate the reefs, make sure that the bigger than normal waves crash there and get to the coast to cause damages. Through scientific research, we've helped communities to to raise clams in their protected areas. Some have grown seaweed as an alternative source of livelihood. Ladies are my heroes. I've come to believe that men say yes very quickly, but they also are very quick to forget that they have said yes. Women will do whatever they say they will do. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joeli, for sharing the work, incredible work that you continue to do up to this day with your people, as well as the government of Fiji. There's similar work being done across the Pacific as well, in trying to safeguard the ocean, but also the environment. I'm going to go into a discussion with our two speakers, and I'm going to first ask the question, and maybe we can start with Sylvia and then Joeli. Sylvia, you've spent most of your life in the ocean. You've embodied so much knowledge, decades of knowledge with you. Joeli, you've spent most of your life by the ocean, working with communities along the coast, and so you've also inherited that knowledge that's passed on from your grandparents, from your parents, to also take care of the environment. I wanted to ask both of you, what does the ocean, if we have to talk about the ocean, what does the ocean mean to both of you personally, perhaps? And why do you keep doing the work that you do, despite the challenges that you face?
For me, the ocean is simply life. No ocean, no life. It starts with water. But it's more than just water. There's plenty of water elsewhere in the universe. It's water plus time, the miracle of whatever it has taken to, over 4.5 billion years, shape this planet into the habitable place that it has turned out to be. And the privilege of being able to come along at just the right moment in time to take advantage of technologies that did not and could not exist until the 20th century, now into the 21st, and to be able to be a witness to changes, the greatest time of learning about who we are, where do we come from, where could we go, given a choice, and we do still have a choice, coupled with the greatest time of destruction. That technology can be used in such a positive way for communication, for health, for security, and to consume nature on a scale that is unprecedented. Only about 5% of the old-growth forests exist now, early in the 21st century. 90% of the sharks are already gone. We came very close to eliminating whales. We are still using technology to consume nature on a scale that by any measure is not sustainable. So, the power of knowing is what will save us, if anything can, which is why I'm so thrilled to be here with you. You can't care if you don't know. And this is the greatest opportunity we've ever had to communicate the peril we are in because of our misuse of technology. This is the moment when we can change this trajectory of tipping in the wrong direction to tipping in the right direction. Restore nature, respect what we've got that's still in good condition, and take care of it. Take care of the ocean. Take care of nature as if our lives depend on it, because they do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for really just grounding us back to the theme of this conference, the power of knowing, which is so important. It really ties back to what we talked about yesterday in terms of information, access, misinformation, disinformation, and therefore you cannot know without being informed. So I want to hand it over to Dr. Joeli, your thoughts about what the ocean means to you and why you keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I am a Pacific Islander, Fijian in Fiji and in most other Pacific Islands. Indigenous people like me have customary rights over land and sea. So basically, for me, it means something that is very close, very dear to me, because that's mine. And of course, I have to respect and look after it, because I have to look after the interest of those that are coming behind us, those future generations. And I'm sad to say that in a lot of ways, the importance of the relationship between the ocean and the land is often blurred to a lot of people. Waste directed into the sea without second thought, and they then will follow hours later to go fish from that same sea. So it is important that knowledge is shared, and we must emphasize that it's up to us. We are the ones that caused the problems in the first place. We should try and at least correct that in order to be better prepared for events like climate change, which maybe is beyond our control in a lot of ways, but there are responsibilities that we need to attend to in that regard as well. So, yeah, it's a responsibility we have to work with.
Thank you. I want to circle back to what you both mentioned during your opening remarks about humans are the predators, but we're also responsible to find solutions to address these problems. Joeli, you mentioned responsibility. Often we talk about responsibility in humans, but it's not specifically directed to individuals or communities. So in this context, when you say humans, as, you know, people that can find solutions for our problems, and if we're referring to we are responsible, what do you mean by that? And we're speaking to a room of diverse people that come from different cultural backgrounds, that the ocean might not be the first thing that they see in the morning when they wake up. So can we speak to this audience in terms of we are responsible, and then we should take that responsibility in better safeguarding our environment? So I want to give you that opportunity to share that.
Thank you very much. Well, you know that the rivers end up in the sea. So whatever happens on land gets to find its way to the sea. Living things, there are living things that are that breed in rivers and then go out to sea, and there are others that live in rivers and then go to sea to breed. So the responsibility I'm referring to relates to the fact that even if we are living far away from rivers, we should remember that the food that we are going to have in the next meal may actually come from a place that has been looked after by some group of other people. It is important that we all take personal responsibility for looking after the environment, which includes both the land and the sea. And sometimes that connection is often not well understood.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. So I'm reiterating what she's saying, that each of us are responsible despite our proximity to the ocean or to the ecosystem. I think many of us live in urban areas. We don't really get to experience and see the firsthand impact of environmental degradation. So we're all responsible. I'm going to hand it over to Sylvia if you have any thoughts.
A few. There are climate consequences to extracting and burning fossil fuels. And be mindful, fossil means that they were once alive. You know, gas, oil, coal derived from life that existed millions of years ago that we're burning in the 21st century with climate consequences. There are also climate consequences to the destruction of the natural carbon capturing, oxygen generating systems, forests. We have an understanding that planting 1 trillion trees to put back what we've lost is a positive thing. Meanwhile, rewilding what we've lost on the land, about half of the land has been converted just for agriculture to feed one species, that would be us. In the ocean, we're subsidizing with billions of dollars the de-wilding of the ocean. Millions of tons of ocean wildlife, not with the ethic of caring and understanding that was born of thousands of years of people living in a place, respecting the ocean as a source of sustenance, a source, a connection to the ocean that now has been broken, lost in this new technology that can find, capture, and market wild animals from the ocean on such a scale that it has climate consequences. How can it not? Taking sharks, they were once so abundant with a history that goes back 400 million years, their place in the carbon cycle in the ocean, now taken for short-term use, turning wildlife into products. The biggest wildlife trade on the planet is what you see marketed as seafood or as products. It's not that we shouldn't be. I mean, of course, we will take fish from the sea, but we are squandering the best chance we will ever have to really understand what the diversity of life in the ocean really means in terms of holding the planet within safe operating space. I can't blame those in the past who didn't know what is now known about how the ocean functions in a way that shapes Earth as a habitable system, but that knowledge is there. We are looking at planetary boundaries of carbon, phosphorus, the whole element, the systems that make Earth a place where we can prosper. But it's why this chance to look at you, look at myself, look at all of us, this moment in time when we know what has previously been not knowable, the best chance we can have to respect nature, restore what we can, protect those systems that are still in great shape, the treaties that now are in place, to at least look at 30% of the land and sea, knowing that only 3% of the ocean currently is protected from exploitation. And looking within the next 6 years, can we go from where we are to achieve at least that level of stability, that level of caring for what remains of the systems that make Earth habitable?
Thank you so much. I see there's an important nexus between the work that you do, Sylvia and Joeli, in terms of sustainability. And I wanted to ask this question: can we ever achieve sustainability given the booming populations that we have, globalization, the development needs that countries aspire to have, but also the needs that we humans have as well? Can we ever reach that level of sustainability in terms of the use of the ocean as well as our environment?
Best chance we'll ever have. We've got allegedly the best minds on the planet. I mean, excuse me, sperm whales, you are really bright, but you haven't figured out how to get out of the ocean and go to the moon. This little sliver of primate biology, we've caused problems, but we're also the best source of solutions. And there's never been a better time. It's our last best chance, perhaps, to resolve that. Who are we? Where do we fit in? Can we take this chance where we still have 10% of the sharks, and in the Pacific maybe 3% of the bluefin tuna remain? We still have the opportunity to shift into this positive state of making peace with nature. Maybe we can even figure out how to make peace among ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say that we have no choice, but have to try. I think that's the best we can do. We have all of the attributes to make the change, but we just have to have the will to take action. And I just sometimes frustrated with all of the agreements that are passed at the global level. Nearly every meeting they have, there's a new agreement. But they have to show what has happened with what has been achieved with the last agreement that was made. So I think we have to change. The system that we work with has to change. We have to look after the majority of the people who are now living below the poverty line and have close to zero chance of coming out of that cycle. Without the change, we really may not be able to make the transition or transformation that we all aspire to have.
And it's anchored in knowing. If you don't know, you can't care. You can know and not care. I see a lot of that. But using the knowledge that is now accessible as never before, and really taking to heart the urgency, this is the best time ever to be on the planet if you're really concerned about the future of civilization, everything we care about. We can do this, but we can't just sit around and talk about it. We've got to actually do it.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask my last question. So if you have any questions, there's a mic in the middle of the room that you can walk up to ask your questions. But I wanted to bring it back to the conference, being informed is also a process of being educated. Now, education is so important in terms of what we're doing, in terms of addressing. Without knowing, you cannot simply care because you don't know. And so I want to bring it back. How important is education in terms of achieving goals that we've set to safeguard our environment? And what is the role of the media, journalists in the room, journalism, in terms of elevating that so that more people in areas that do not have access to technology, to internet, can be better informed?
Well, it's the best hope. I mean, no child is born knowing much of anything except maybe hunger or pleasure. But we teach children the joy of killing. We need to teach children the joy of caring. Make it cool to care. I mean, really, it should be something that instead of conquering the world, to make it a priority to learn how to live with the world, and to respect others, whether we're talking about other humans or other beings from all of life that makes our existence possible. And one way to do that, you don't learn in school, unless you consider the ocean your school, which I consider it to be. I think you do too. No child left dry is my recipe for a good education.
Thank you, Joeli.
Yes, it's a challenge, but I think all it takes is for individuals to take action. And I think all of us are doing that in one way or another to influence those that need to be influenced, that change is needed, and that there is no other choice, as we have agreed is the case. I just showed you what I do as a person from that place, so I decided to go back and do my influencing there, because for the better part of my life, I was trying to influence the students that went through my classroom, and they are now all over the Pacific. So that, I think, is the hope I have, that if those of us who are already enlightened with the challenges that we need to address go out there and take action, influence those that need to be influenced. And this is what I said earlier when I mentioned the role of the media. I think they have a much broader platform, and they should be acknowledged for all the good things that they have done in unearthing unethical practices in certain parts of the world, and all the kind of challenges that we really don't need. And I think humanity has to agree we don't need wars. If all of those billions of dollars spent on making arms for us to kill each other, rather than try and get us all out of the hellhole that we are going into.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open it up now to the room for questions. Please introduce yourself, direct your question. Make sure your question is precise. Direct them to which speaker or both of them. We'll take the first question.
Hi, it's Chris Tan from SBS World News in Perth, Australia. It's a question for Sylvia. Thank you for sharing your life journey and your career and the photos. Incredible stuff. Recently, I covered a massive whale stranding event in the state's southwest. Over 160 whales beach in the south coast. I just wanted to get your take, because I spoke to a couple of experts in the area across Australia, and no one can still figure out why this is a common occurrence, especially more frequently in the last few years. I just wanted to get your take on what your theories are for these stranding events, and also, secondly, is it a concern for you that it's happening more and more often?
Yeah, there's more than one way to kill a whale. we have learned in part that the avalanche of noise that has been added to the ocean since the advent of motorized ocean transport has really had an impact on communication, and even the physical damage that can be done to not just marine mammals, but to fish, and literally maybe all forms of life. Sound at high volume is occasional in the ocean, marked with earthquakes or some special thing, but the continuous growing level of this cacophony of sound is having an impact, that whether that's the cause of the beaching of the specific event that you noted, I can't say. But there are documented occasions where the damage to the ears of the dolphins or whales or other creatures has been, and certainly use of explosives, that's a big noise, coupled with a shock wave that has had a huge impact. And 90% of just about everything goes by big ships plowing across the ocean. It was not known when we began this era of motorized transport that this could be a problem. But now it is. The changing chemistry in the ocean, the changing food. We're taking the food of whales and other creatures, breaking the links that, who knows why that group of distressed animals came ashore. But we need to figure out how we are impacting the ocean across the board and try to take the pressure off, because it's not just the whales or the fish or the krill that are being impacted, comes back to us as well.
Can have the next question.
Hi, my name is Jia Zhang. I'm with Asian American News, and I'm also a freelancer. And when I think of the biggest mass change that really needs to happen, but I feel is the hardest to actually affect, is just consumption of food. And especially for those of us who live in relative privilege where the food comes to us, I feel like we still have to rely on labeling or suggestions for businesses and institutions. And it's almost like people just want to allay their guilt when the best thing that could have been done is to just stop eating seafood yesterday. So I was wondering, maybe from all three of your vantage points, if you actually have specific kind of recommendations for species or businesses to avoid, or moreover, ones that would actually be halfway okay to support if we're not going to quit eating all seafood.
Well, the great thing about humans is that we're versatile. We can feed ourselves with a variety of things and live very well. And there's a great move to think lower on the food chain, eat more plants, better for the planet, better for you, your health. And I think it's way we used to feed ourselves with more plant-based. I mean, I hesitate to tell people what they should eat or not, but I know that I've made the choice because of what I know, that I can make a difference with every bite I take and what I choose to eat. And if everybody, look, there are 8 billion of us, 8 billion minds, 8 billion appetites, 8 billion choices. That's up 4 times the number when I arrived on the planet, and it's a problem. We have to feed ourselves, but we need to be smarter and look at the consequences of what we choose to eat on our life support system. Eating wildlife. If you are in a community where it's sustenance, right. There are habits, wisdom that goes back long into the history of our species. But eating wildlife by the ton in places far removed from where those animals exist, we don't do it with wild birds anymore, but we used to. We need to think and figure it out. Do you really need, living in Chicago, to have tuna on your menu? Or can you eat something else that isn't going to take a bite out of the ocean?
Joeli?
It's a difficult question, and I think again it boils down to individual choices and responsibilities. I'm often concerned at like at the end of the day, with all the food that is not used, the wastage. Even here in the conference, it's something that perhaps we need to address, just to make sure that less is wasted at the end of every day. That might be a better way to perhaps channel that to those that are hungry and are going into extreme ways to try and feed their stomach for the day. So I think we have to reorganize ourselves better.
There's no waste in nature.
Yes.
Everything gets recycled naturally. We invented the concept of waste.
Yes.
And so we need to learn from what worked in the past and apply it in the present.
Thank you. We'll take the last two questions because we're running out of time.
Hello, I'm Stephanie. I work for an international environment NGO in China. I have a question for Dr. Sylvia. During your keynote, you mentioned you expressed a great concerns on deep sea mining. On the other hand, we have seen a lot of big companies, organizations showing great interest to practice deep sea mining in high sea, and also we have seen some government making vetoed in deep sea mining's negotiation meetings in Jamaica. So I would like to ask you, what do you think is the biggest challenges or obstacles for scientists to stop deep sea mining currently?
I urge everyone everywhere to use whatever power you have to just hit the pause button, just have a moratorium on deep sea mining. It's the last great wilderness on the planet. We have the capacity to destroy on a massive scale and upend carbon capture, storage. It has climate consequences. It has planetary security consequences. We're marketed to believe that we need to take what's there because it's there, and we have the technology to get it. It's such an old way of thinking that if it's there, we have an obligation to turn whatever nature is into something useful as we define use. But the most important thing that we use the ocean for, what we take from the ocean, is our existence. It's not oil, gas, minerals, or even ocean wildlife to eat. What we take from the ocean is that we exist. We must resist this temptation to just go into the deep sea because we now can, and to believe the marketing myth that we need cobalt, that we need nickel. We do not need these elements to make this so-called transition to the green economy. Clever engineers are coming up with alternatives that don't require these minerals that we are extracting from the land, as well as now potentially from the deep sea. We just need to be a voice for reality. We don't need to kill the ocean to go into the next generation of whatever we want to use for the technology of the future.
Thank you. Our last question.
Good morning. I'm Arlene Burgos from the Philippines, ABS-CBN News. Question for both panelists. Please forgive if this sounds sophomoric. As a journalist, I feel conscious using words like climate emergency. And whenever I try to inject these concepts into the writing, into my editing, I just feel conscious. I guess what I'm asking for is advice. Are we really at that point? Is it like, should we be covering it like a coup d'etat, like a Mayday type of an emergency now?
Understand the question, but go ahead.
She uses the word climate emergency. Is that
Is climate emergency a good use of the word? You bet. My short answer is yes. Go for it. Your response?
Yeah, same thing. I think the time for being being less desperate is way past. We now are in that stage, because look at the Category 5 hurricanes that are hitting Vanuatu. I think last year had about 5 Category 5 hurricanes in their country, so they are continuously rebuilding. For them, it's way past emergency, it's desperation.
Could I just add one thing? I've been in communication with Johan Rockström and the other science gurus who are looking at the planetary boundary concept. They are really concerned that we have already exceeded many of these boundaries that hold the planet within safe operating space. The one wild card, the one real cause for hope is the ocean. The ocean. And when you think that we're just at the edge of the greatest era of understanding, exploring the ocean that we've ever had, as we have technology that enables us to go deep and to put information together, to look at patterns, to put life on the balance sheet, to understand what we could not see before, that Earth is alive and that most of it is ocean, and that we haven't known how to calculate climate with the ocean, the living ocean, on the balance sheet, the way we are just beginning to right now. So with all these other SOS red lights flashing about how we've exceeded carbon dioxide, phosphorus, you name it, the other elements that should make your hair stand on end, the ocean has kept us safe. The ocean is a source of life. Now we have to give back to the ocean because our existence really depends on it.
Thank you so much. I really apologize that we've exceeded our time, and in honor of the next plenary, both speakers will be around after this, so if you have any questions, please approach them and ask them. Please, ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking our speakers for this morning.